Marilyn Manson and Linkin Park are back in the charts with new albums, and of course Opeth are returning with their growls. What year is this? Hi people, and hello my Chili con Carnage crew. It's the man who produces Iron for My Eyes, Chili here, doing a 5-minute review on Marilyn Manson's newest album, One Assassination Under God, Chapter 1.
News from the Decision Desk. NBC News can now project that Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin, which means he is the winner of this race and will return to the White House as this country's 47th president.
Marilyn Manson has always been a controversial artist for his whole career. After all, you don't become one of the most iconic shock rockers in history if your stage name is Brian Hugh Warner. No, he knew what he was doing as soon as he took the name Marilyn Manson and made it his own. Of course, part of it was from the iconic beauty that was Marilyn Monroe, and the other half from serial killer and cult leader Charles Manson. He is the guy that everyone loves to hate, and he has been doing this for nearly 3 decades, negating the territory very well. And with this new album, his 12th record to date, there is a lot to discuss, and not all of it is limited to the music. So let us begin. I remember in the lead up to this album, a short video was released which featured Kat Von D and guest vocals by Marilyn Manson for her song Truth in Reverse, and thinking, just what the f is this? It sounds like... Now I thought that this song was going to be part of the new Marilyn Manson album, and I had very little faith in his return, but oh boy was I glad that this little electronica snippet made its way of course to her album instead, and we would be greeted with the lead single As Sick as the Secrets Within, which made me pause and think for a brief moment that all might just be right in this world, and maybe we are onto something here. Now I've got to admit that I didn't like this tune at the beginning, but after a few playthroughs, it certainly grew on me. And when you listen to this track on this album's playthrough, it is rather perfectly placed. Of course, if you are unaware, this album is a concept record, and it's going to be a very interesting one, because not only is it one record, but it's going to be at least 2. And I've got to admit that this is a very ambitious effort by the musician. By the time the next single, Raise the Red Flag, was released, I was all on board for this album and knew that we would be in for a treat, as this tune crawls to its own pace, from the distorted bass intro to creepy synth sections being added, and of course lyrics that are alluring and mysterious as the message within. If you're not paranoid, it's probably too late. Manson tells all of us that he's going to be standing up for what he has to give us and not laid down, as he removes the target on him and raises the red flag soaked in blood. This tune is danger and a great way to turn the tables on the events of his past. An absolutely amazing song, and one that I highly recommend you listen to. Now, one of the more curious aspects of this record is the release date and title of the album. For those who are unaware, the 22nd of November is the day that JFK was assassinated, and this would mark 61 years since that tragic event. Of course, the record's title is also a play on the words for the Pledge of Allegiance, and the opening line, One Nation Under God. And even the opening track alludes to an assassination target on the back of one's head. In my opinion, the choice to release this record on this date is by no mere coincidence, and even under these newfound tumultuous and turbulent times, I have to wonder if the Chapter 1 is an ambiguous sign of things to come. This is made all the more obvious with the start of the record and the opening title track, which lays bare the ominous message pertaining to the aftermath of an event we are only partially made aware of, and has yet to be fully stated. This may be a reflection, of course, of current media consumption as well, which we as humans digest with such a vernacular manner in which we form an opinion based on what limited information we receive, and of course this is a bit odd considering, well, we are in the 21st century and information is so quick to achieve. And yet this album seems to somehow hone in on this message rather perfectly. Perhaps one of the things that caught me by surprise when I was listening to the following tracks is just how surprisingly heavy it was from the start. Now you have to consider of course his music from his past couple of releases, which has seen a deferred path of songwriting and a shift in style while still retaining of course his signature sound, but this was clearly shifting into different territories, and I chalk this up to I guess age and a change in the public zeitgeist. After all, this is no longer 1999, the artist is not as young as he was, and goth rock is not as huge as it once was. However, Marilyn Manson just seems to throw throw caution to the wind and say, "Fuck it, let's write some music we want to write with the gusto of youth that is still within him." This is made all the more evident on the track Nod If You Understand, which takes cues from that Antichrist Superstar era with huge drums pounding away, chants of shame, 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 massive guitars, and screams that call me by surprise, of course, and I must state that he still has it to deliver these powerful vocal sections. Now, it must be said, of course, that this tune does sound somewhat derivative of the track Tourniquet from the Antichrist Superstar album, and I'm sure many will be quick to point this out. But at the end of the day, if you are taking direction from one of your best albums that you have released in your life, then it's probably not the worst thing ever. The main takeaway is that if you feel that this has cheapened your experience, or feel that it is a trip to the nostalgia factory, then it is short-lived, as the other songs on here after this one follow a very different path to varying degrees. And this is made abundantly clear with the inclusion of Tyler Bates as not only the producer but writer on this album. His addition within this record has, of course, made a lot of the material much more better. And his inclusion as a songwriter can be noted on almost all the tracks, or at least according to Apple Music anyway, if you are looking over the notes for him. For reference, he was brought on as the producer for their albums Pale Emperor and Heaven Upside Down. The next few tracks certainly hit the right chords with Sacrilegious and Death Is Not a Costume, but I want to point out one thing that I have noticed in my many playthroughs of this record thus far, and it has to be the production of the vocal harmonies, or at least I believe that's what they are on this record. It feels like multiple layers have been just added, and of course are giving a rather weird electronic vibe to Manson's voice, and making it sound larger than it is, unless this is a vocal effect that has been used while laying down his sections, but it does start to feel a bit overused throughout the album's runtime. Once you are aware of this fact, you can't unhear it, but this is a very minor problem on an otherwise flawless record. I think it's easy to say that this album definitely feels like one of those old school Marilyn Manson records, and is so engrossing that it must be played in full, from start to finish. And I think that the 43-minute runtime really helps this record and showcases the songwriting of the band and Tyler Bates in this streamlined effort. I want to also give a shout out to the outro track, which begins as an interesting acoustic piece as Manson gives us, of course, his final stanzas before the electronic guitars kick in and deliver an amazing and yet emotionally felt solo over the hellish soundscape that was built up over the song's duration. One hell of a way to send off this album. Overall, I'm going to give this album a score of 11 million chilies on the spicy scale, with my favourite tracks being One Assassination Under God, No Funeral Without Applause, Nod If You Understand, As Sick as the Secrets Within, Raise the Red Flag, and Sacrifice of the Mass. Now, I was excited for this album's release and very eager to hear it, but I was not prepared to be absolutely blown away at just how good this record actually is. I mean, I had high expectations, but I just wasn't expecting it to surpass these and leave me flabbergasted with what I heard. Now, for those who are curious, I have an episode on Marilyn Manson's albums ranked from worst to best if you want to check that out. And if you are wondering where this album sits on my list, well, I would place it after We Are Chaos, link below to the original video. I will certainly be curious to hear chapter 2 whenever that comes out and hear the full story on hand. But as always, people, I want to hear your thoughts on the record, so tell me in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us, and stay notified for future music related content, because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook, and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy.